المعارضة يعني لنا علاقة معها، وكان احنا اكثر دولة تأثرت بهذه الشيء.
أنا شايف إن قطر بتعاونها مع الإخوان، ولما شافت دولة الإمارات العربية بتقوم بدور كبير، دور إنساني ودور عسكري ودور تنموي لأهلنا في اليمن.
مفيش عقل بيدير قطر، اللي بيدير قطر هو المال.
Relasyon sa bansang Qatar dahil umano sa pagsuporta nito sa
再来视线转向中东，接下来我们来关注。
This is the Taliban office in Doha behind me.
Qatar is now in the lead for supporting al-Qaeda and al-Qaeda-related groups.
It's no secret the government allows people like Ali al-Nuaimi to live freely in Qatar. The United States Treasury designated him a terrorist last year, saying he raised millions to fund terror. Then there's Wagdi Gonen, a cleric who lived in Orange County, California. The U.S. suspected him of fundraising activities that could support terrorism. Gonem agreed to leave the U.S. and now lives in Doha, where earlier this year he appeared in a YouTube video soliciting money for Syria with Saad bin Saad al-Qabi.
أقوله بعد مغادرتي لقطر الحبيبة بالأمس، والبيان بعنوان لا للحرب الصليبية ضد الدولة الإسلامية.
Qatar is seen today as a host of leaders from Hamas, from Taliban. Actually, just tonight, the Qatari Emir will be hosting Sheikh Qardawi, who's a well-known extremist in the region, for an iftar.
كل من عنده قدرة المدرب على القتال، الذي يعرف كيف يقاوم هؤلاء القتلة وكيف يضرب بالسيف والمدفع، كيف يضرب القنبلة ويضرب بالقنابل الذكية وكل القنابل وكل الأسلحة. من عنده قدرة على هؤلاء ويجد السبيل ميسرا إليهم يجب أن يذهب.
If you're moderate, Minister, why do you allow hate speech in your mosques?
Never.
العمليات الاستشهادية وما فيها تفسير غير كده. ليه؟ أنا بحط الحزام الناسف وبخش فبموت، يبقى أنا قتلت، وبعد ما قتلت يبقى فيقتلون دي في الأول ويقتلون.
You know, the attack at the Manchester Arena, the ISIS members who posted about that attack some hours before the attack, they were taught by someone, and there's an infrastructure behind that teaching. There's a platform.
There was concern about, broader concern about Al Jazeera providing a platform for terrorists. Al Jazeera was working against our troops and actually providing information to our enemies.
When the explosions in Riyadh happened in 2003, Saif al-Adhan was in Iran along with Saad bin Laden, the chief propaganda person for al-Qaeda, and 4 or 5 other people, senior leaders. Iran harbored them and protected them. We asked for them to be extradited. It was refused. We have the phone conversation on tape.
The Treasury Department, when it's doing these designations, is making a clear and consistent and unequivocal case that there exists a secret relationship between Iran on the one hand and al-Qaeda.
Didn't Iran create Hezbollah? Didn't Iran attack more than a dozen embassies inside Iran in violation of all international laws? We didn't attack them. Iran did.
Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates leading a group of 7 nations severing ties with Qatar officially for sponsoring terrorism. Everything from the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS to militants supported by Iran in Saudi Arabia's restive eastern province, which include Al Jazeera Television, an open door to Iran, and support for a Muslim Brotherhood that's banned as a terror group in Egypt.
Moderate Arab states are drawing a line in the sand. They're saying to Qatar, either you're with us or you're with the radical Islamic forces. Qatar is a primary backer of Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip. So we have no sympathy for Qatar. We're with these Arab states. They're saying to Qatar, either with us on this side of the line or with the bad guys on the other side of the line.
This is not the first time that Qatar suffers a diplomatic setback with its Gulf and Arab neighbors. We had a fallout in 2014 in which ambassadors were recalled, and we also had a fallout in 2002. In fact, most analysts who follow the region would argue that the catalyst for all this was all the way back in 1995 by literally sort of feeding both sides of conflicts around the Middle East. The latest of which was reported yesterday in the Financial Times. Qatar reportedly paid $1 billion to secure the release of royal family members who were kidnapped in Iraq. They paid that money to Iran and to Shia militias, but then they also turned around and paid $300 million to al-Qaeda related affiliates in the war in Syria. So literally here we see Qatar fueling both sides of conflicts, whether it's in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, and in other places.
There is no any single evidence that the Qatar government is supporting radical Islamists.
We have the catalog of evidence is quite overwhelming, to be honest. But I think it is extremely important also to mention that there are several individuals today who are currently in Qatar roaming free with clear links. They are under US sanctions, they are under UN sanctions. People like Khalifa Mohammed al-Sabi'i, who was involved with the original Khalid Sheikh Mohammed of 9/11 terror attack. And he is still roaming free, although he has clearly been sanctioned by the United States and the UN. Another person is Abdul Malik Yusuf Abdul Salam, another individual who is clearly under sanctions by the United States and by the UN for supporting al-Qaeda organizations in terms of funding, and he is also roaming free. We have another case of Abdurrahman al-Naimi, who established what is supposedly a human rights organization under the name of Al-Karama, and clearly he's also sanctioned by the US for supporting Al-Qaeda. We have the Ben Eid charity organization, which has been a conduit, and the list goes on and on and on.
We don't accept people funding terrorist groups. But as I said, there's differences between some countries of who are the terrorists and who are the maybe Islamist groups, but we don't consider them as terrorists.
Such as?
Such as groups in Syria, groups in Libya, groups in Egypt.
To make it clear that the various countries, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the UAE, Egypt and other countries are fed up with this sort of duplicity that we've seen that has been undermining the region, and to send a strong message that this is time for cooler heads to restructure Qatar's approach and foreign policy.
We want to see Qatar implement the promises it made a few years back with regard to its support for extremist groups, with regards to its hostile media, with regards to its interference in the affairs of other countries. And we have taken this step with great pain in order to make sure that Qatar understands that these policies are not acceptable, not sustainable, and that they must change.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, our great generals and military people, the time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding. And its extremist ideology in terms of funding. I want to thank Saudi Arabia and my friend King Salman and all of the countries who participated in that very historic summit. It was truly historic. There has never been anything like it before, and perhaps there never will be again. Hopefully, it will be the beginning of the end of funding terrorism. It will therefore be the beginning of the end to terrorism. No more funding.